Hey everyone, Kyle here, collecting America's pastime. Hope you guys are having a great day. Today is Friday, so happy Friday, TGIF. It has been a great first week back to normal, work life. It started off with a bang. Before I go any further, I would be remiss if I didn't mention Stefanski is gone as the Browns head coach, which, hallelujah, it is about time. I was a fan of his for the first year, maybe two, and then his handling of the Baker Mayfield situation, playing him, not only just playing him while he was hurt with the torn labrum, but also having him throw 35 times a game, really soured me on him. And then his inability to get Deshaun going or to really say much to the media. I just not a fan of his. I think he's very very overrated. So, with that being said, Browns need to go hire John Harbaugh. That is the answer to our prayers. As Browns fans, he has Cleveland ties. He grew up a Browns fan. His wife, I believe, went to high school on the east side of Cleveland. So, go give him a blank check. Give him free reign of the organization and full reign of the organization, and let's go get our revenge on Baltimore and keep destroying Pittsburgh. So, um, anyways, moving into the hobby, I have been really busy with a few collections. I had a family member drop off a multi box collection. I mean, there's 50,000 cards probably that he wants me to go through and help sell for him. So I'm just about done with baseball, at least going through and organizing it. I still have to go through and value it, price it, etc. There's like one card from the 50s, maybe a couple cards. Yeah, there's definitely a couple cards from the 60s, and then decent chunk of cards from the 70s and in early 80s. There's something like 6, 7, 8 boxes of junk wax, and that's just commons. And then I have about a 5 row of Hall of Famers, 5 row, or I think it might be just be 4 rows of like stars, semi-stars, future Hall of Famers, 3 rows of chrome and chrome-esque cards. I have a 5 row of nothing but Heritage, Gypsy Queen, and Allen and Ginter, which are great sets. A couple rows of worthwhile Cleveland cards. So it's been a blast to go through. I still got to go through football and basketball. His football is going to be worth a decent chunk, from what I saw, and the quality is a bit better with football. Baseball is higher quantity, but football is higher quality. And then I don't know what's in basketball, so pretty excited to go through the rest. So, and then at work at the card shop, we just completed, or we agreed to terms with an Amish collector. I don't know where he gets the collections from, whether it's auctions, whether he's accepting them as payment, for certain work. But I do live in or very close to Amish country, and this Amish guy brought in a huge collection, and there was a couple, 5 row boxes, and then a 2 row of slabs. The slabs were all from the 50/50 Otani series, and then my boss and I were going through the 5 rows, and it was so funny because you'd go through and it'd be like junk, $700 Cooper Flag auto, junk, $60 Kobe Bryant. There's a 54 Bowman Larry Doby in there, and just all sorts of random stuff. It's a really good collection. So I think we are hopefully in a position this weekend. We agreed to terms over the phone. Hopefully he has come in by tomorrow when I start working, to collect his payment, and then I can get to work on going through that. So that'll be fun. We have a T206, T205, and Caramel collection we agreed to terms with. That'll be in on Sunday, so I'll get to go through that. And then I got off the phone with a customer yesterday who has a 50s, 60s, and 70s collection that I went through in, I think, early December. And it's, long story short, it's not his, but he's working on selling it for a family member. And so hopefully he got the okay over Christmas to start, talking numbers to sell it. And hopefully he's in, this weekend or next weekend, and we can buy that as well. There was a bunch of Mantles and Mays and Jim Brown and just some really huge names from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. So I have a lot of fun with this. I enjoy going through collections, seeing all the random cards, and for every, I don't even care going through junk wax. For every 100 junk wax cards, if you find something cool, that's worth it in my opinion. At least for the most part, as long as there's enough of that. So anyways, before I get into my mail day, I wanted to give a couple shout outs. So Jason, everyday card collector, and he and I had been talking, and actually the 2 cards in this mail day were what prompted my invitation to this. But I had reached out to him I've talked to him a couple times, but I reached out to him to get his opinion on a couple cards I was looking at, and he took it back. He asked if he could take it back to a couple guys to get their opinions on them, and I said sure. So he got back to me, and then he said, you know what, I'm just going to add you to the group, and I got added to a text group with Jason, Aaron, Value Vintage Cards, Doug, JoeWoodCollector, JT's Vintage Card Room, Matt, The Card Story, and then a guy named Joe. He doesn't have a channel, but this group has been awesome. If this was 20 some years ago when you had to pay for text messages, my bill would be insane, because the phone is just nonstop going off with everyone talking cards and pickups and all that stuff. I've been in the chat for a week and a half, maybe going on 2 weeks, and the amount of Grail cards that have been picked up and showed in that amount of time is just ridiculous. So it's been a lot of fun. And then the other one, I want to shout out John, 3D 80s Kid. He invited me on 5 cards every collector should have. That episode, I think, came out yesterday or the day before. It was with myself, Dylan, Double D, Vintage Baseball Cards, and then Carl from Australia, who doesn't have a channel yet, but he is in the process of getting a YouTube channel. So that's going to be a lot of fun to follow him. And Dylan, Carl, and John were fantastic. I think the video was about an hour, but then in totality, we talked for probably an hour 45, 15 minutes prior, and then 30 minutes after. This is some of the most fun I've ever had in the hobby. My first go around with YouTube, when I first started back in 2018 through 2020 or 2022, whenever I stopped, yes, it had been kind of crazy with my life, with everything going on and all the changes that happened so quickly. So my inconsistency with YouTube was part of the problem, but I also I don't really think I reached out to be part of these types of things, doing video collaborations and being in text groups and all that stuff. This is what it's all about. We have pieces of cardboard that we cherish potentially more than our kids at times. And just the community, that they sit in boxes. So if we don't talk about them, if we don't share them with people, what's the point of it? And this has been an absolute blast to be part of this. I talk with so many people now in the hobby. My wife goes, "Are you texting another cardboard or another card collector?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course I am." And it's, I apologize to her for for that taking some time away from her, and I need to get better about that. But um, it's still a huge joy, and life's too short not to have joys in life. So shout out to everyone that has been in communication with me. I know Tyler 5 Cent Wax, he started a Discord that for YouTube collectors to join, and that has been popping off. So there's a lot of good stuff happening in the YouTube community. I know For Collectors just announced the YouTube get together and trade night for now it's Independence, which I wasn't going to share my opinions, but I'll share my opinions here in a second on that. So, but I know For Collectors announced the details for those gatherings, and I cannot wait for that in April. So I'll talk about that real quick before I get into the mail day now. For anybody being apprehensive or bummed out about the move from Strongsville to Independence, keep an open mind. I was not as frequent of a Strongsville goer as I probably should have been. Obviously, being out of the hobby a couple of years, trying to separate myself from the collection I used to have and get back in the right mindset and all that stuff, with having the right priorities while collecting. I did not want to attend card shows. I did attend Strongsville previously, a couple of years, but that was back when it was at the hotel. So it has certainly been quite a few years since I've really done Strongsville. And I know in the last couple of years when I wasn't attending, it has grown to something that is really special. I don't believe that special feeling is going to go away with the move to Independence. In fact, I think it's actually going to grow. I live about 40 minutes from Strongsville. I grew up a lot closer to Strongsville. I know that area quite well. There's not a whole lot to do. It is quite limited as far as venue space and accommodations, entertainment, food, etc. For those of you who don't know, it is a suburb southwest of Cleveland that is a nice area, but it's not. It's definitely a suburb. It's not built up very well. Independence is the exact opposite. Independence is it's very, very nice, and it's built up more on the corporate entertainment sense. It's a big corporate area. The strip through the main part of Strongsville is all restaurants and hotels and businesses. There's a Topgolf right next to the Embassy Suites that a lot of people are staying at. The Cleveland Clinic Courts, which are the Cavs practice facility, they are located just a couple minutes from the Embassy Suites and from the show. LeBron actually had it built there back when he was still with the Cavs because he didn't want to drive all the way up to Cleveland from Akron. So anyways, there's so much to do. There's tons of places to eat. The hotels are nicer. The card the card show that's joining with the Great Lakes Convention, the promoter of that is huge in Ohio, at least for card shows. He does so many card shows, and they get pretty good reviews. From every sense I get, he really cares about the hobby. And I know that Strongsville is maintaining an independent structure, albeit within the same building as the GLC. But the GLC is going to have some hand in helping make sure that Strongsville is accommodated nicely. And I fully expect this. With the curtain that's going to block off the two shows, essentially, you're going to have an exclusive vintage show next to a TCG and modern show. And I think that can only be a good thing for the hobby. The National has only gone up and to the right from everything I know. when it comes to attendance and excitement and all that stuff. Now, I should say excitement's kind of waning because, people, it's expensive. People price cards a certain way at the National, and all that stuff. But I still think National is a big piece, at least in our community. So um, I fully expect this to maintain a very high level of importance on the calendar for the vintage card community, and um, I think the accommodations being nicer and more abundant are going to be huge in making that happen. I hear so many people when I watch channels say that the main piece to what makes Strongsville so special, or has made it so special, it isn't the show itself. It's the time with the community outside of the show, the YouTube meetup, the trade night, etc. And with it being an Independence, I think that can only improve. So have an open mind. I am very excited to see all of you at Independence. I will be there. We're still waiting to see if the card shop is getting a table on the vintage side. So I don't know what my role is going to be, whether it's going to be as a customer or as a behind the table dealer, but we'll see. Regardless, I'm excited. I will be at the at least the YouTube meetup. I gotta build up some brownie points with the wife to make sure I can do both the YouTube meetup and the trade night. But anyways, I'm excited, and just to have an open mind. It should be a good time. So sorry for the rambling. Let's get into some mail days. Just 2 cards today, but they're bangers. The first one is a 1930 Blue Ribbon Malt Premium Rogers Hornsby. The story behind both of these is, I mentioned in a previous video that I had made some posts on Net 54 to be a bit more aggressive on the scarcer side, try to draw some things out of the woodwork. That has worked so far. I got that 1908 Morgan Bull Kelly postcard that's a pop 1 because of the ad back. Excuse me. And another guy named Mac reached out and sent me a link to a bunch of cards that he has for sale, and I started looking at them, and goodness, was there a bunch of great stuff on this site. He has everything from mainstream to really scarce, big names, small names. It's a really good site. If I remember, I'll link it in the description below. But anyways, I was going through, and there was some stuff that had prices and some stuff that didn't. So I compiled a huge list of stuff I'd be interested in and asked him on the stuff that didn't have prices if he could provide those. As we talked about pricing and how much room he had on stuff, I whittled that list down to 2 cards, and this was one of them. This was the one I asked Jason about that ultimately got me into the chat group. The Blue Ribbon Malt Premium is a very scarce set. It's I think a regional issue. There are 8 graded by SGC, and there are 3 graded by PSA, 0 graded by Beckett. So 11 total graded, and I'm sure there's more raw out there. This is just for Rogers Hornsby, I should say. But it's a scarce set. So the Rogers Hornsby is a tougher Hall of Famer now. His value, where his value has been compared to his importance to the game for his time, has been for a long time largely lower than it should have been. He was a premium player through the 20s and 30s that doesn't garner quite the respect that Gehrig and Ruth did, but he wasn't too much worse of a player than those guys, if not better at times. So, and the hobby is starting to recognize that, and his prices are going up, and his stuff's becoming more difficult to find. So, I saw the price on this, and this one we had some room to work on, and with it being so scarce, that's kind of my goal with the Hall of Fame project. As I'm picking these up, ultimate goal is to get as many copies as I can of each Hall of Famer, but that's not going to be possible because I don't have $1 trillion. So for guys like Rogers Hornsby, where it's going to be, a bit tougher to collect multiple copies, I want the more scarce stuff. And that's where this comes in. So these these came on a backer board material that was a bit larger. It's the backer board size was closer to a full paper size, I think just under, or a regular piece of paper. So this photo is a couple inches on every side shorter than that or smaller than that. So it's perfect size for the collection. It fits into a binder page, a full-size binder page perfectly, and it's a really, really cool image. And again, it's scarce. So it's one of those things where I wasn't going to find. I don't know if I would have found many Hornsbys cheaper than this one to begin with, and let alone such a scarce copy. So it was a must buy. The next one and the last one is the real big one. So this is an 1888 N162 Tim Keefe. The back is skinned, which brought it down into my price range perfectly. But the front is just immaculate. The eye appeal on this is so strong, and I'm not a stickler with eye appeal per se, but everything just aligned perfectly with this to where price on this and an eye appeal were I couldn't pass it up. I used to have a couple 19th century cards in my first run. It's one of the things I miss having the most from that collection, and I wasn't expecting to get back into that era or that era so soon. But again, Mac was awesome to work with, and I am stoked to have this. So there are 2 more Hall of Famers that are knocked off the list. That brings me to 208 out of 352. That's good for 59.09%. So I think it's this Sunday we find out who else gets into the Hall of Fame. So probably I have a couple more cards coming that I'm hoping to get a video done before Sunday. But if I don't, then the 352 number will no longer be accurate, and we'll probably be adding 1 or 2 more Hall of Famers to the total that I need to chase. So with that being said, thank you. I know this is a longer video from what I've been doing, but thank you very much for watching. I have just been having a blast since doing videos again and being part of the community again. So thank you all for the conversations and content and just everything you guys do to provide entertainment for us and allow us to enjoy the hobby in a different way. So that being said, live free, dream big.